You can study to show yourself approved, and you can lead them people. I promise you I've had this happen. I'm not just talking or blowing smoke. I walked into a man's house and was able to lead him to prayer. And he's the one that started it. He was a Muslim. And he started asking me about Jesus. And what I took him to is Isaiah 53. Because, see, they're taught to believe that the Torah was of God, that the Psalms are of God, and that many of the prophets are of God. They are taught in many of their circles, the imams teach this, but they say that it's been perverted from then on. That the Catholicism perverted it and the church perverted it, so our Bible's perverted. That's what they've been taught. But you can lead them back to our prophets that prophesied about Jesus, and then you can teach them how Isaiah prophesied Jesus Christ 800 years before he came and was crucified, and at that time there was no such thing as a crucifixion. So how could this man know how he would be pierced, how he would be beaten like this? How in Psalms 22 with David, how would he know that he'd be pierced in his hands? And you can tell by the description that he would be hung on the cross and he'd be looking down. All this is in there. You can lead them that way. You see what I'm saying? And that convinces, because you've got the power of the Holy Spirit inside you. When you start talking to these people, guess what? And look straight off in their eyes, and there's no fear, and you've got the wisdom of God because the Holy Spirit lives in you. How many of you know that the Holy Spirit lives in you?
Amen.
Do you trust in His power? Do you trust in His power to deliver? He can deliver them instead of trying to kill them. I've seen comments on the computer here lately that the only good Muslim is a dead Muslim. That's a lie. That's sorry, that's no good, and that's of the devil. But I've heard ministers saying this here lately. The only good Muslim is a dead Muslim. I'm telling you, this stuff is fixing to get more prevalent. Nation will rise against nation, and because the love of many has waxed cold, because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. And that is sin. It's the sin of unbelief for a Christian to do things like they're going to do in Florida.
That's right.
And it causes destruction. The thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. But Jesus comes that we may have life, and that they may have life. If we understood and we see and we came to church, you know, when the doors are open to learn, to be taught, if most of us continue to come to church, a lot of people just stay home, and then they agree with this guy right here and say, just burn the thing. But if you're taught, and you go to Isaiah 60, if you're sitting under a teacher that teaches these things, I think it's Isaiah 60 verse 7, it tells you that the flocks of Kedar will come at his altar. They will come in and worship at his altar. The flocks of Kedar is the second son of Ishmael, and the second son of Ishmael, Kedar, is the bloodline that Muhammad came through. All you got to do is read. And you can lead these people to salvation instead of causing them to stumble and cut somebody's head off. You see the difference? Jesus was able to teach these people. Jesus was able to teach the Sadducees and the Pharisees. And though not many of them came in, Nicodemus did. And there were some more got converted also. And Saul turned into Paul. Believe me, because of Stephen's what? Did Stephen go in there and rip up their Torah and look at them? Stephen preached. He preached and preached and preached, and then they stoned him to death. And guess what? Saul got converted to Paul. You see, we got to use wisdom and be led by the Holy Spirit in all things, because this happened to the disciples also. Luke chapter 9 verse 51. And it came to pass, when the time was come, that he should be received up. So we know this is at the end of Jesus' ministry. He steadfastly set his face to go to Jerusalem, and sent messengers before his face. And they went and entered into a village of the Samaritans to make ready for him. And they did not receive him, because his face was as though he would go to Jerusalem. And when his disciples James and John saw this, they said, Lord, will you that we command fire to come down from heaven and consume them, even as Elijah did? But he turned and rebuked them, and said, you know not what manner of spirit you are of. For the Son of Man is not come to destroy men's lives, but to save them. And they went to another village. You see that? That's the wrong spirit.
That's right.
To rise up and want to destroy somebody else. But I'm telling you, it's getting in many of us. and we've forgotten what Jesus taught us. He didn't teach. Was he that way with you?
No.
Oh, aren't you glad he wasn't that way with us? Isn't that funny that we get mighty self-righteous when it comes to other people being saved? But we desire mercy. Because James says there will be judgment without mercy for those who show no mercy. And this is not mercy.
That's right.
This right here is inciting violence, it's anger, it's bitterness, and it's wrath. And it's getting in many Americans. And I can understand why. If you're not moved, if you're not led by the Holy Spirit, if you don't die to self, then wrath is going to come up in you. Bitterness will come up in you. You'll be producing the fruits of the flesh, not the fruits of the Spirit. And right now, Islam is coming in like a storm. I had a dream, I guess about 2 months ago, and I was going down, it looked like Highway 171. And here, there were some railroad tracks going across, and they had them arms come down. Well, I had beat the arms, and everybody else got caught by it. And so I'm going, and I'm all alone. And all of a sudden, I start seeing city worker trucks on the side of the road, like, uh-oh, I done got into something. I don't know what's going on. So I pulled over and started looking, and down the hill, they were working on something. There was water coming across the road. It wasn't even raining. Like maybe something busted, a dam busted or something, because there was like 2 foot of water coming across the road, and I was looking down at it. And I was in the middle of the road, it's a 4-lane highway, and there's men working down there. All of a sudden, more started coming across there. They started running. Then I heard a loud noise. I mean, it sounded like thunder coming through the trees. And I looked up, and it was almost like a tsunami, a big tidal wave. It wasn't just that trickle of water coming over the road anymore. This thing was huge. And I was standing right in front of a big oak tree.